Happy day, Bitcoiners. I am here with Yonat Vaks, a longtime and prolific Bitcoin artist. Artist in general, was an artist her whole life, being very creative, exploring a wide range, a variety of media, and is a longtime Bitcoiner, public speaker. Very recently has been collaborating with Bitcoin Art Magazine, pretty regularly producing some podcast work. The Movement of Art, you can catch that every month on the 8th and the 21st is going to be dropping. So she's contributing with Asanoa on the Bitcoin Art Magazine podcast stuff, roundtable type discussions with artists. Yonat's art has been exhibited well over a decade in both Europe and the United States. Her current big project she's been working on, which we'll be showing you and talking about, is called INANA. It's kind of about the spaces in between, and a 3-year expedition through prehistoric art, Jungian psychology, and ancient mythology to restore the lost balance between masculine and feminine energies. We'll talk some about that, see what I can learn about that on my end. Being married, if you're in relationships, we all experience that on a small level, and in our lives, it connects to things deep to our being and biology. And she uses art to basically excavate meaning out of that. And she is a writer. She produces a monthly newsletter focusing on the in between, and we'll show how to follow her on there if you want to keep up with her work. I personally find Yonat's work to be very contemplative of big ideas, philosophical and spiritual. As she describes it, her work is an investigation into the essence that connects us all. It is a search of how ancient narratives echo in our contemporary world. She interprets versions of modern life through myths, symbols, metaphors, and the reinterpretation of older archetypes, things that have echoed throughout history. She aims to understand the human condition and the effects of rapid technological changes, and how society changes. We see a quickening happening in our modern world through technology, and then basically researching cultural artifacts and where to find the answer in the dialogue of all of this, which is in the in between. So, with that, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm
It's my,
excited about this.
yeah, I'm glad to have you. I've had some other Bitcoin artists on, and it's hard to pick and choose sometimes. I saw you collaborating with Asanoa. You were recommended, and I started to look at your art. You've done a lot of very different things over the years. Tell me about when you were very little. You started actually with some folding paper and instructions on creative, like gift wrapping things. That has evolved into painting and now like physical medium. Uh, what has what has your most recent medium been, which we'll talk about currently, like your current project in Nana? What is that working with?
So currently I'm working with clay ceramics. Yeah, it's kind of coming back to, I think when I was little, it was one of the things, there's a lot of kids that like art that go to pottery classes, right? So I did
Hmm.
go when I was very little. Um, and I kind of left that, but it's always something that I had in my head to get back to. Um, and yeah, about a year ago, I started going to classes once a week to just get the feel of it. And and yeah, now I'm all in with. I love it so much, with clay and
That is awesome. I
ceramics.
want to
Yeah,
bring to the stage. This is some of your current work in that. It's very sleek
yeah.
and
What?
smooth and polished.
Yeah, this is actually not my work, or it is my work, but this is actually an AI render, which is part of the story of these pieces.
I
So I
see.
start, yeah. So I start, if you go into Inanna,
Inanna,
yeah, it's, well,
the
Inanna's,
chalice of entanglement.
yeah, it has, yeah, it's, there's so much to talk about this. I don't know where to start, but
I
I
Yeah. So now I'm a pleb at art as well. I like it when I know it when I see it, and so anything you describe to me, I can't judge. I'll accept what it is because you're the one gonna tell me a little about things today.
Okay, so let's. Inanna is what I'm doing now. I've been making Bitcoin art for the past 8 years, and I think
Mhm.
with the art, with the Bitcoin art, it's always been this kind of exploration of questions, but around society. So about freedom, about decentralization, what is money, what society, how society can look differently on a Bitcoin
Mhm.
standard. But it's more like, questions that are bigger about society. And Inanna is kind of like, you said I've been doing different things throughout the years.
Uh-huh.
And Inanna is kind of, for me, a way to look back at everything I've done and kind of put it all together. Because before I became an artist, like in a former life kind of thing, I was I did a alternative therapy, and specifically breath therapy.
Mm.
Before, now everyone talks about it and it's like the thing to do, but this was like 20 years ago I started studying it, and I got to it by chance, those sliding door moments where I
Mm.
was working. I was about 22, 23, and I was working in the afternoons, and I was looking for something to do in the morning, and I was going to go to art classes in like a local school. And I met a friend for lunch, and a friend of hers came, and she goes, there's like an alternative school here, close to here. You should go. And I never even heard about these things. Or for me, it was these like crazy, weird stuff people do with, I don't know. It didn't,
You didn't
like,
feel like a creative
I didn't.
yourself.
No, I mean like the alternative therapy school. Yeah, I didn't
That
feel like.
that
She
direction.
said you should go check it out if you're looking for things to do. They have really interesting classes.
Okay.
And for me it was like I didn't even know that much about it. But there's those moments where like you have that gut instinct of I think I need to see what that's about. So
Okay.
the path went from going to art classes to going to alternative therapy, and that was like a rabbit hole of going down, you know, our psyche and the way we build the beliefs we have about the world, but inside, like our inner beliefs. And I started doing breath therapy, and breath therapy it's a kind of it's a kind of way you breathe that alters your state of consciousness. It's like what people
Uh-huh.
do today with microdosing and psychedelics, but it's natural.
Yeah.
And
I've heard
that
about that.
opened,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
mean, so I think, I mean, there's a book called maybe Just Breathe or something. But anyway, yeah, it's amazing what you can do to change your body and yourself. I mean, you would think of exercise or nutrition or whatever, but we breathe without consciously thinking about it. And sometimes just the way you breathe, like up in your chest or throat versus down in your belly, or taking deep breaths and timing your breaths, it can change your physiology and your mental state, and just all by yourself sitting alone. So,
yeah,
but hey, go ahead.
completely.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's, if you think about it, it's the only process in our body that's not unconscious, but that's done, that's automatic, but that you can control, right? Like our
Right.
heartbeats. Maybe there's like guru somewhere that can control their heartbeat, but most of us can't, like, say, okay, like all of our internal functions in our body are automatic, but breath is
Uh-huh.
something that's automatic. We don't think about breathing every part of the day, but we
Right.
can control it. So it's a way to go into, if you breathe in certain ways, you can alter your state of consciousness. You can go back to memories, to beliefs you have. It's the kind of the same as psychedelics, but it's just natural. So you're more in, so it doesn't maybe sometimes take you to places you're not ready to see, which happens sometimes
Mm. Mm.
in other ways. So anyway, so that opened this whole new world, and I went to the path of being a breath therapist, and then kind of other life things happened and I came back to art. And
Uh-huh.
and Inanna is kind of like a mixture. It's like bringing that inner search together with the outer search.
Okay.
And I chose the chalice because it's kind of like it's kind of like my search for the Holy Grail. You know, that the symbol of the Holy Grail, it's a symbol of a search for meaning.
Uh-huh.
So that's why I chose that form. And it started when it's kind of like a rabbit hole, kind of like when you discover Bitcoin and go down that rabbit hole of what is money and what is freedom and
Oh yeah.
decentralization.
Like,
So
yeah.
this was another rabbit hole that I finally understood that it's very much connected, I think, to the values that, at least the values I see in Bitcoin. But it's a rabbit hole that says, so I read this archaeological book that it's controversial in the way it sees the evidence, but there are archaeologists that have seen that have found many figurines of women, like of small figurines of women all around Europe. Now the
This one on the
main,
left reminds me of that. I've seen pictures of those, and at
yeah,
times they're I don't know how to describe it, but they're like supernatural-ish and yet very, it taps into some base emotions, but it's like, what is that? But anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
yes. So the common idea is that these were kind of like ancient porn.
Yeah.
So the way like archaeologists looked at this is, oh, this is just kind of like porn, right?
Right.
It's, it fits in your hand, you can go wherever you want with it,
Remember your
and
wife when you're out hunting or
yeah,
something.
exactly. So there's a group of women archaeologists that were like, wait a minute, maybe there's another, interpretation, because they found these on places that looked like altars, and they said, what if these were goddesses? What if there were, these were societies that had both gods and goddesses? Because we live in a world today that most of the world is monotheistic, and there's only gods, or God is male, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they found the places where they found them. It was villages or settlements that were in like plains. They weren't high on mountains. They didn't have fortifications, and there weren't that many signs of war. So they were saying, okay, what if societies, and they found that like if you look at the settlements, almost all the houses had the same size, had the same structure. There wasn't like this big, let's call them government buildings
Central
or
power. Like it's
central power. Yeah,
fairly
exactly.
egalitarian and peaceful, perhaps.
Exactly. So they were saying, what if, societies used to be different? What if there were partnership societies? So things were, so people were more equal to each other, and this had both female and male gods, because both are important. The male,
Uh-huh.
and I think it's something that, it's part of the discussion today that we've lost the plot, I feel, about, and part of it is we do live in a society that's very male in its values, in what, not in its values, but in what's important, if and I think part of what I'm trying to say with this is, even there's a lot of women that are like, no, I can, where feminism has gotten today is like, no, I can be just like a man. I can be strong and I can be logical. It's we're kind of flipping,
Like identity roles
like
stuff.
the identity roles, exactly. And to me, saying that is saying, well, why are qualities that are innate to women, you're saying like qualities that are innate to women are not are bad in a way, right? If you're saying I can be just like a man and I'm not sensitive and emotional, then you're putting that down as well. And I'm
Right.
saying, men and women are different. Like, we can ignore that and try to pretend that that's not true,
Right.
but we are, there's evidence that our brains are different, right? So instead of saying, so this is kind of saying, you know being being naturally sensitive and empathic, and and being able to have to see multiple things, or multitasking, it's not a bad thing. It's not something we need to try to hide. It's to
Right.
say, no, that's what I'm naturally good at. In a world without sensitivity or empathy, not that I'm saying, again, this is very stereotypical and all of
Sure.
that,
Yeah.
but it's kind of to say, women should be women and men should be men, and that's a good thing. Like, the
So like the
world
yin and the
needs
yang,
both, the yin and the yang,
we've got the
exactly.
yin and the yang, and it's not that, oh, one is better or one's less powerful or one's subservient or one is the way it should be. It there's a balance there, and
Yeah,
they
it's
and
like
they
we
blend
need.
together, and they share each other's attributes, but they are two distinct parts. I mean, biologically, in a way, we come from a yin and a yang of, you and me, the male and female. There are differences. And then thinking back to the archaeological part of it, it may have been that this culture or village celebrated or elevated or saw as at the same level the female end of things as a goddess.
Yeah, exactly. It said, like, they're both, yeah, they're both of these, all of these qualities are important. It's like, it's also when we look at ourselves, also inside ourselves. So if you don't want to look at it as men and women, also, there's we take we can make decisions logically or intuitively, and it's not one is better than the other. They work together. Sometimes intuition is better, sometimes logic is better, and sometimes they need to go together. Or chaos and strategy. It's like to take the two things and bring them back together, because I think that's missing in the world. And I think we see it everywhere, like in relationships, in in identity. It's kind of like all mixing up,
Uh-huh.
and and relationships are breaking. So to me, it's kind of like a natural path, alongside the Bitcoin art. It's this is to say, okay, if we can, the like, fix the money, fix the world, but the world still needs, how do we want the world to look like?
Uh-huh.
It's not, I don't believe that. I think if you fix the money, you fix a lot of things, but we also have to talk about the rest. Doesn't magically happen. So it's kind of putting these ideas that, we don't need maybe a hierarchy structure that we're so used to. And for us, it's almost, we think of it as human nature. Maybe that's not human nature. Maybe hierarchy structures is something that can, maybe we can work in a more like partnership societies.
Yeah, wouldn't you think that our natural state of where we've gotten to be where we are, our natural healthy state would be balance and shared mutual, yeah, just that balance of the energies. So here, let me tell me what you think about where this makes me think about in terms of connecting it to, like, fix the money, fix the world, but fiat incentives. Fiat, in a way, drives us on this contrived hustle and kind of a competitive finite resource capture game where it's kind of like, gotta struggle, gotta hustle, gotta whatever. Not that we don't work in life healthily, but fiat gives us like this, like, it's like this game of competitive tournament of kings, and it can kind of push maybe that masculine side of it. Like, maybe it you got to be competitive, you got to be aggressive, you got to, you know maybe it elevates masculine traits and then diminutizes female. I don't know. Do you think we're off balance in that way, or that we're trying to find this identity thing, but we're putting pressure on it versus just having like a balance.
Yeah, I think we're completely out of balance in a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
And it's true. The fiat system is very like, like charging forward. It's about getting more and more and more, and you have to it it's kind of like this hamster wheel that you have to keep going and going and going, because if you don't, you're gonna fall out, or the money doesn't work, right? So you have to make more and more and more to basically have less in the end.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I think with Bitcoin it brings back those things of more time, more balance, yeah, in the
Uh-huh.
world, in the way we see the world, in the values we want.
And so some of these views, so just my at a blush glance, this one on the left is quite feminine. The one on the right perhaps is more masculine. Is that am I looking at that directionally correct there?
Yeah, there's no right or wrong way. I think like what
Good.
no, because yeah, no, there's no right or wrong way to see it, because I think it's um yeah, I put a lot of symbols, even though maybe from these structures it doesn't seem like it, but I put a lot of symbols in my work. And then and I work a lot with animals, like with in other works as well. I use animals a lot because it's like these metaphors um, that we collectively share. Like what a bull, like if you look here, like the metaphor of a snake or a bull, we kind of automatically have a feeling for what that is, and we can each take it to a different place. So some people see snakes as evil, and some people see snakes as something that symbolizes regeneration and rebirth.
Mm.
um, and the bull as well, some see it um, as a very masculine symbol, and some see it as a feminine symbol as well, in a way, because
Yeah.
but I think they work together, because they were symbols of goddesses before, both the snake and the bull. And it's, for example, the snake was many goddesses, their animal was a snake, because it changes its skin, it kind of
Oh.
it has this connotation of rebirth and creation of life over and over again.
Uh-huh.
And it's not a coincidence that the snake in the Garden of Eden was a snake, what turned into this
Uh-huh.
evil character that made um, that made Adam and Eve
The
defy
fall
God.
from Eden, or the fall of
Yeah,
human. Yeah.
it was
Mhm.
part of this thing to put like the female qualities down. So
It
it's not
taps
a
into some
coincidence.
real deep um I want to say memes, but there's a word for it. But yeah, those deep symbologies deep in our psyche, even subconsciously. You studied like with Freud or Jungian ideas, but there's these deep symbologies in our minds that are even subconscious, or we experience them in dreams, and then we're trying to like piece like what does that really mean? But they're buried down deep in us. They can be things like animals, but so like what snakes represent and mean, and what other animals might mean, or what other all kinds of experiences that we might have in a dream, what they mean. And you can tap into that. It makes me think just randomly, but there was a guy, well, there's like Jordan Peterson is a guy who's had a lot of talks and talked about sort of biblically, I suppose, is where his focus has been, but sociology work and studies into the human psyche and these deep symbologies that carry through time. And we've taken those and turned them into stories. And those stories have meanings. And then we've extrapolated on the stories. But throughout cultures, throughout history, before we even had writing, we had these. And then as soon as we had writing, we were writing about these. and in art, or even before writing was art. And so you're seeing it in ancient art as well. And so you're tapping into some ancient aspects of art. Um, and then I guess it's hard to say, like, here's what it means, but I'm curious about what you think about. You've studied that stuff, Jungian philosophy, and can you brush a stroke of that stuff into this as well?
Yeah, for sure. It's a lot. I think it's something that's in most of the pieces I do. I love using stories and myths from the past. Yeah, if you look at the Bitcoin artifacts, there's, I have a series that's called Hudlicius, which is kind of tapping into the story of the Odyssey,
Oh,
and
yes.
almost all of my work is I try to have a connection to some kind of story or culture or something from the past, because I think it's like, if one of my biggest things is like, what's the essence that connects us all? It's not just what connects us today, like me to you, but also to the past and to all humanity in a way. So stories are a huge part of it. And I think it's if we take the Odyssey, then even if we haven't read it, we know more or less that it's this hero's journey.
Yes.
And then when I connect it to the Odyssey, to the hero's journey of like a pleb or a Bitcoiner, then it already with that has all of these connotations that you already put into it, right? That you already feel in yourself. And the same thing with animals. Yeah, almost all of my work, that's part of the story, I think, of my work, that I think that we evolve, the humanity evolves in spirals, and we always go back to the same kind of questions and the same thing. We deal with the same things, even today when we're talking about freedom. We're not the first people on earth to talk about this. I mean, this
Uh-huh.
is like a question that keeps coming up every century in one way or another. So it's kind of like, let's go back to this story in how they talked about it, 10,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago, and
Uh-huh.
bring those stories to here. And I think it's when you bring the stories from the past to today, it's like you're bringing all of for me, it's like I'm bringing all of what those people maybe thought or maybe had in their mind to today, and like connecting that with us, with ourselves.
The bear clops.
um
And
yeah.
did you do the leather work as well? Did you make the leather?
No, the leather is it's handmade, but not by me.
Man, that's
No,
beautiful.
I made the
Wow.
tablet. So these are also these are replicas of wax tablets, of Roman wax tablets. So in
Oh,
Rome they would write on these wax tablets, so you can like engrave in them, and then if you needed to erase it, you would heat it up and kind of like um, it would plan out, and then you could write on it again.
and
So,
that's how you made this is wax?
no, that's a painting, but I think
Okay, okay.
there should be, if you go through it again, there should be another, or it's not
Yeah,
open.
on
If you
here.
go there, here, this is when it's open. So it's kind of like a booklet that's made from wood, and inside that black part is wax. So it's wax
Oh,
mixed with charcoal, mixed with like black ink, black
wow.
powder.
Uh-huh.
So it's because the wax tablets they had were black as well, and that's a stylus that was made by the same person that made the harpoon. I don't know if you checked out the
Oh
harpoon, but
yeah,
the
there's a
harpoon
whole
is like another piece.
story. Yeah.
Yeah,
Are they Basque harpoons?
they're Basque harpoons. Yeah. Well,
Where
they're
are
Basque. That it's also in Bitcoin artifacts.
let's go back to that. I want
If
to
you
because
go
that
down,
is amazing proof of work. Uh,
yeah, Bitcoin will.
the whaler Basque harpoon. A lot of proof of work goes into this. I mean, you could glance
Yeah,
at it and
that
say, "Oh, that's a spear," but the detail, the art in these is uh, intricate. I mean, lots of
yeah,
detail there.
yeah, that piece took about a year to make, from one thing, from idea to creation. um
Wow.
yeah, the idea was, it's the same thing. It's kind of this idea of taking a story of another culture and bringing it and telling the story of Bitcoin through that, so you get all of the things from this other culture into the artwork.
Hmm.
So this
This guy making them.
this is the guy. Yeah, this is Benyat. This is how he makes. He doesn't make harpoons. The harpoon was my idea, but he makes these are traditional Basque walking sticks.
Uh huh.
So they're walking sticks that they have different there's like walking sticks of honor. So if there's like a special event and you want to gift this, there's ones that are made from silver, from like silver engravings on it. There are ones that are more like regular walking sticks,
Hmm.
and they're like traditionally made. So the way they're made is he goes out to the forest where they have wild medlar wood or trees. And the special thing about medlar trees is when you carve on them, when you create the scar it doesn't scar. So think that you like engrave a branch, and
Uh huh.
most trees that's it'll just stay like inside, right? When after you come back after a few months, and you'll have like the engraving inside.
It scars
So
in
the
there and heals
it
around it.
scars inside. So the medlar tree, it heals on it. It kind of creates this scar, just like our skin does in a way. If you get like a really deep cut, you get like a scar on top of it.
Uh huh.
So what he does is he goes to the forest and he takes a branch out of each tree. He leaves it on the tree, and he kind of makes these like beautiful symbols on it. And 6 months later, the tree has created like these beautiful scars on it. And then he chops it off and he brings it to, well, he makes a lot of them, and he brings it to his studio, and then it dries for 10 years. So this is like a family business. They've been doing it for generations. So they have a lot of like older branches, but he does this every year just to have like more supply. And then it goes through all of this process of he puts like silver engravings on parts of it.
Uh
And
huh.
the top part of the walking stick, if you it screws, it opens, and inside there's like a knife, like a sword. So
I
it
see.
was both a walking stick and like a weapon. So if you're walking in the mountains, it was used a lot by shepherds. So if you're walking in the mountains and something happens, you can open it up and you have like a weapon inside. And in these, you can see now he's engraving like Basque symbols, and you can engrave like a phrase that you want, like something, your name, or some kind of phrase that you like. So
Can,
I found out about the story of the Basque. Sorry, did you?
oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah. You were wanting to make something like this to incorporate Bitcoin when you came across him and realized, oh, this is kind of what I'm going for, right?
Yeah, well, I found out about the Basque whalers.
Uh huh.
So the Basque whalers were in the 16th century. They went to the coast of Canada to hunt for whales, because then um, the oil from whale fat was used to create for light in many parts of Europe.
Uh huh.
So they would kind of go on these really dangerous journeys then to hunt whales. And since like whales and is like a big meme in this space, I thought like it was an interesting story of going to of like new frontiers and trying new things and crossing these like dangerous waters, and it kind of fit to the story of Bitcoin in a way. and I just thought about making whale harpoons. And then I was just researching like Basque culture and how to make these harpoons somehow connected to also this story of the Basque whalers. And then I came across this um,
Yeah.
these sticks and these walking sticks, and I called him and I with this idea, and he was super nice and was like, yeah, let's do it.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, and so I called. There's a place in Canada that it's like there's a museum in Newfoundland in like one of the islands. So I asked for the exact measurements of the harpoons that they used, and Benyat, he made like the stick. He made it longer. It's kind of like a walking stick plus like half a walking stick. He made like a new form for me. And then I also went to the Basque Country to because every time I make a piece like this that's about a different culture, I go to that area to talk to people to kind of like feel the culture and see what the stories I want to tell inside the piece.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I also found a blacksmith that made the arrows, and it was funny because I came to his shop, to his studio, and we were talking for a really long time, and I was explaining the story and said I want, like, if you can make the harpoon arrows, and at the end he said, you know, I make all the arrows for the whaler museums around the Basque Country. And I just found it funny. I was like, why are you only telling me this now? And
They're
uh,
beautiful. And
yeah,
you live in Barcelona and moved to
yeah,
Spain, and
yeah,
it's interesting that Basque culture and the country, if you will, it's remained its own strong culture and maintained its independence in a way. I mean, they've fought and argued with Spain over the years, but in terms
yeah.
of maintaining, retaining their culture, their sort of sovereignty, if you will, it's an interesting story there.
Yeah, yeah, and it's part of that story actually about the Basque culture is also part of this story, which I realized just after making this. But you know, like the Basque language is a language that has no, or its origins aren't known. It's kind of like those languages that there's not many of them in the world, but that just came out of nowhere. It's like not connected to any other language, and
Right.
it's like a special culture inside that's very, you know, that really wants to maintain its culture and resisted like joining Spain, and it fought for its independence and to keep its values and its culture. And it was like, this is also kind of the story of Bitcoin in a way. So just by, you know, the call, apart from the story of the whalers, also the story of the Basque is kind of, I found a connection to the Bitcoin story as well.
It's
And
interesting if you think back through history that there are probably lots of, I mean, all over the world, but throughout Europe for sure, there were basically the pockets of cultures like the Basque culture and other ones. I think of, like, I don't know, you could say, the gypsies or others, but there, we still to this day have a handful of niche cultures that have survived. But there was all this pressure through history where nation states were growing and expanding, and kind of like the Roman Empire just sort of expanded and collectivized microcultures and then homogenized all that. And the Basque culture is a representation of one of those few that through luck or geography or however kept that intact. Whereas a lot of the rest of, we have our countries, but all of Spain or all of France, they got sort of homogenized in a
yeah,
larger single entity, and it's tapping into those niche, special considerations about human roots that we at one point we had a lot of these really distinct little smaller microcosms of culture, and we've been steadily over time sort of homogenized, and technology puts that pressure on us now where it's a double-edged sword. If we get to your considerations about um, technology and what's changing and how we're impacted by change. There's a lot of with the internet and computers and just being able to do this, technology empowers us and connects us in so many ways. It's also a double-edged sword because it can kind of create homogenous things over people that otherwise might, um, conform to broader things versus retaining what's localized. Do you want to talk about sort of how technology and change and pressure affects people and how you reflect that in your art?
Yeah, it's also one of the things that I work with a lot of in, and I think we're in a point today where technology has, first of all, it's accelerating really, really fast. So it's like we're not, our psyche or we're slower in changing ourselves than what technology is changing. I mean, today, every day, new things are changing, especially with AI.
Mm-hmm.
So, so, so there's that part. But I think if I think more and more people are realizing that we have to go back to who we are as humans, or figure that out again, because it's like we're being consumed by technology almost,
Right.
especially with AI. It's like so many people today can't even, they ask ChatGPT everything. I mean, to the point where people are having relationships with AI, and
Yeah.
and like losing their human relationships. And so
Yeah.
I think we're in a point that's critical in a way, but a lot of people are saying, it's like consuming a lot of people, but there's another growing thing, another growing part of humanity saying, "Whoa, this is getting um, too much."
Right.
It's we're losing who we are, and there's also so much research about this that you can see of how social media, how screens affect us, affect children, affect I can talk about this for for like an hour. I don't know if it's connected to what you asked me about my work, but
It all connects.
yeah. But yeah, I think it's just this question of because I don't think that saying, oh, I don't want anything to do with technology and I'm going to go live in the forest, and it's it's here, and there's a lot of things that it can do to help us as well. um, but we have to find the balance in how to use it so it doesn't, so it's a tool, so we use it and it doesn't use us in a way, because right
Uh-huh.
now it's in a place where it's using us, where we're becoming robots in a way, or we're losing who we are. So I think,
Right.
yeah, if I go back to my work, or INANA, or in general, what I like to think about is, what is that thing that makes us human,
Uh-huh.
especially today, when you can talk to ChatGPT, and sometimes it sounds human, so you're like, okay, well, if some technology can sound human, or some people say it has consciousness already, then what is human? What is consciousness, if it feels like a bot can be conscious?
Right.
It's like it opens up these bigger questions.
Yeah, we anthropomorphize things and we do that with AI. And um again, they're useful tools, they expand our abilities. So like I was talking to other Bitcoin artists. I think it might have been Fractal and Crypt, where it's sort of like you think about technology through the ages, where there was art in the media they had way back in the day, and they used what they had. And like someone invented photography, and so then photography was a new way to make art, or the printing press and printing and lithography, and those were new ways to make art. And now we have AI, and so it's a new way to make art, but not getting lost in that, because it's like a fire hose shooting across, and you want to use it, but it could just also just take you away. And then raising kids, I mean, you want to balance. I have a young daughter myself and some older kids, but raising kids today, it's trying to maintain that balance and how kids integrate with all this. And I can hear your child.
Yeah, yeah. Just a second, Theo.
I It's early morning for me, so my daughter's still asleep. So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's all good. This is life.
תאו, אתה יכול לעזור למנו בבקשה?
And if you gotta go, I totally understand.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. I have an older one that was supposed to take care of the smaller one. Apparently forgot that.
You have one job right now.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, it sounds like it's better. So sorry.
The balance of having family and kids and integrating with whether it's school or technology, I tell you, at a young age, kids will just gravitate right to the screen like candy. And
yeah,
there's something that triggers deep in our brain of like, oh, that's shiny and bright and moving, and kids will just gravitate to it. And so with technology, with all these things, it's like not just a balance, but almost retaining a separate, distinct, it's like the dots in the yin and the yang, keeping something that's completely separate that is still human and detached from any of that too, like taking a break, stepping back, and getting back to like who you are. Who are we as humans, ultimately, at a deep level?
Yeah, and totally. And I think it is that double-edged. So, if we're looking at if going back to if we were looking at art and how, when photography came, when the camera was invented, there were many art critics and artists that were saying, oh, this is the end of art, and whoever's a photographer is not an artist because they don't know how to use a paintbrush. And there were big art critics that were like, if you're a photographer, don't call yourself an artist. Just like people are saying today with AI, right? Because you need to know how to use a paintbrush or whatever. But the thing is that when photography was invented, it kind of freed artists from, if before art was about painting reality, right? Most artists just did paintings about figurative paintings of reality. And all of these movements, like if we look at today, if we look at modern art, or we look at artists most people know, like Dali and Picasso and Van Gogh, they, in a way, their art was possible because of photography, right? Mm-hmm. Because so many artists didn't have to be the ones painting portraits of people or doing what now the camera could do. So it kind of opened art to many other ways. It also opened garbage art, but that's another, it opened up a lot of things, but it opened up creativity in a way we can't deny. And I think AI art is the same thing in a way. And I actually think it will bring back craft, because if creating art is if creating images has become so easy and AI is so good at it, then you can make these pictures for yourself and put them in the house. But then, okay, but is that art or is that a pretty picture, right? It can be a pretty picture, but there's something in art that's the connection to I think to the person who made it. Uh-huh. Their story, their work, their soul that they put into that's part of the story. So maybe it could be a painting that's not as quote unquote perfect as what you can make with Midjourney, but it took time and it took and it means something, and it so I actually think AI will bring that back in a way, will bring back more more maybe thoughtful art, or like
Uh-huh.
if we're looking at which I think is there if you look at a lot of Bitcoin art, because it has that thing of like proof of work and time. Um, but I think, AI is good for certain things, but to say like it will change art, but I think it's a really interesting to see how it will change art. And
Yeah.
yeah, with technology, with kids as well, it's, we try as much as possible to not have them see any screens, or I mean, sometimes they'll see, a movie or something, but it's it's also important to know our relationship to it, and because to know that it's, especially for kids, I think it's the, kids, their brain is still forming.
Mm-hmm.
We can see on ourselves how addicted we can become to our phone. But I
Yeah.
think for people, for us who grew up in a world that didn't have this, we still, our brain is formed in a certain way. So we can be addicted, but we can stop this addiction as well if we want to. And I think with kids, if they're too much in this, their brain is forming in a different way. It's like this constant need for stimulation. No, you can see it.
Right.
A lot
Yeah.
of kids today, like if they encounter something that's difficult, they like go crazy, right? They need that, like, um yeah. So
Yeah, I think people inherently sort of like we crave having a purpose or an outlet. We're innately curious. We're kind of always seeking the why. I think innately, and we want to ascertain quality. So even as technology opens up accessibility to things, like, oh, we can just make all this stuff now, okay, but then so initially it kind of blows out and we can like have access to all the things, but then over time we hone in, I think naturally kind of on what quality is, and we search for meaning, we search for quality and the essence of it. So even as it's out there, people gravitate to like the quality of it. And as humans, I think intrinsically there has to be something about, well, where were humans engaged with this, putting in effort and creating quality? So, with AI or other technologies we might apply in various craft work, there are ways to do that in mass production, and there's other ways to hone in on quality. And so we can still seek that. And AI has that. We're going through just sort of reconciling what can be done with quality, I suppose. I'll be in a hotel room sometimes, some random like generic hotel in a place, just whatever was accessible. I'll see like a painting on the wall of the room, and I'll be struck like, oh, that's nice. And then if I stop and look in it deeply, I'm like, how was this made? There are like hundreds of these in every room, in every hotel. And I start to think like, wow, at one level, superficially, like this is nice to look at, pleasant, whatever. And then there is an aspect to like, how was this made and produced and put here? And you start to have these thoughts about what quality is. You could put anything on a wall, but then there's this relationship between the creation itself and what it means to you as an observer. And there's a relationship there. And so tapping into that with quality is what good artists do, really, regardless of what they make. So it could be done with other media, all media, I suppose. So
yeah, for sure. I think that's part of the important thing in art is what's, what the artist put in, or what the story behind it, and what that's part of the work, right? It's not, and I guess that's maybe the difference between what art is and what a pretty picture is.
right,
There's, yeah,
the meaning behind it all, and not
the
not just the
meaning,
thing
this.
itself, but what it represents, how it was made, what it is.
Yeah.
So bringing me to all of your other artwork, and I want to show off things that one that you would like to have shown. Um, this one now, I think this image is in Bitcoin Art Magazine. I will
Yeah.
throw up Bitcoin Art Magazine. The Genesis edition is out, and you can go get yours. You are featured in this. And very recently, just a few days ago, you were on the Bitcoin Art broadcast with us and Noah. So for more background on you, if people want to hear about Yonat and um, the art and stuff, you can listen to the Bitcoin Art broadcast and listen to the most recent episode 3 they had here. Features you, and you talk a lot about your artwork in other ways that we can't get to entirely here today. But this is one of your pieces here, right?
Yeah.
Um, it is on. There's a collectible made of this in a
Yeah. It's on
card.
the it's
Uh,
on the Bitcoin trading card.
it's this is a collectible. The card itself is a collectible here. Um, so you've done work for various ways, explicitly for Bitcoin. Um, you've also on your website. I saw. Oh, where was it? Maybe it was. Let's see here. Oh, the Bava Kakra.
Yeah.
Oh, it's sold. So now this to me looks like a lot of time. There was a really cool website I found with your work, I think, making this.
Yeah, this is 21ism, which was a really cool project that was I think it was the first Bitcoin art and culture site. So it was kind of this collective 21ism that interviewed different artists and had I think it was a virtual magazine.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if they did a printed one. But yeah,
What
like
brought you to
Rebel
this?
Money was one of the founders of 21ism.
Oh,
So
cool.
the Baba Kakra is a collaboration with Chief Monkey.
Oh, yes.
Yes, who is an incredible artist, and his work is really really unique. So you can see that the yama or the monster itself was made by Chief Monkey, and I made the paintings inside. And yeah, this artwork, we had hours and hours of conversations about every little detail in this, which we probably should have recorded, but we didn't.
I
But
love the.
so just the thought behind this, again, it was like hours and hours of contemplation about this. And what it is it's like, again, a Bitcoin interpretation of the Buddhist samsara, or the wheel of so in Buddhist tradition, they believe that we come into this world to the samsara, to the suffering, to and we go through different things in life, and the meaning of life, or the intention is life, is to leave this world and get to nirvana, right? So
Uh-huh.
through meditation and through practice, you're supposed to understand that this world is here to teach us things, and once you learn all of your teachings and all of the things that you need to learn, then you leave this realm of this world, and you reach nirvana, which is where the Buddha is, and where like most Buddhist monks are. At least in Tibetan tradition, they say that Buddhist monks have reached nirvana. They don't need to come back to this world, but they come back in reincarnation to help other people understand themselves. So we took that, and it's like so the picture of the Baba Kakra is it explains all of these things in life. So the middle is like the 3 poisons of life, or the 3 things that will bring you down. So the idea is that you come back each life and you can be a person, or you can be a god, or you can be an animal. You can go down or up on this like ladder of enlightenment, right? So the
Gotcha.
middle, so we took that idea and we created the wheel of fiat samsara, so the wheel
Uh-huh.
of fiat suffering.
I see it.
And reaching Bitcoin nirvana, right? So for us, like the 3 poisons are war, money, and propaganda,
Uh-huh.
or what we see on the television or media, right? So those are like the 3 things, the 3 poisons of the fiat system. And then
Mm.
the wheel after that is a wheel. So there's loads of little symbols in this, and we made a book about it, and there's a big article about it in the Bitcoin magazine and also in Citadel 21 and in both of our sites. So you can check my site or Chief Monkey, and you can read all about it. But generally, it's like each wheel is a different. So the second wheel, we talked about the 4th turning. You heard about the
Uh-huh.
4th turning?
I see the seasons there, but the 4th turning concept spans time and generations.
Yeah, so it's like we took seasons to explain each generation, like each
Uh-huh.
um yeah, so the 4th turning is this idea that history moves again in spirals, and there's generations that go through hardship, and just like the generation that went through the world wars. And so right now it's kind of like we're in the same spiral place as when World War I and World War II happened. So it's like 25 years that certain things happen in the world, and then after that, people, after such turbulent times, people want times that are more quiet. And so
Uh-huh.
it's this theory of how history like moves in circles and spirals, and how that forms the generations that are born, and the generations that go through that at different ages. So kind of like your part of who you are is affected by the how old you are when each of these like 4th turn, when each of these times passes, right?
Uh-huh.
And then the next wheel is the wheel of reincarnation. So it's the what realm were you born into? Were you born into the God realm, the semi-God realm, the hungry ghost realm? It's kind of like what level of enlightenment are you on? So we
Uh-huh.
did. There's the level of the maxis, which is on the top, which is people who are hardcore believers, like only Bitcoin. We
Uh-huh.
also have in each one there's the rabbit, since there's a lot like talking about going down the rabbit hole,
Uh-huh.
and how the rabbit yeah, symbolizes kind of that, in Alice in Wonderland. And it's kind of like this animal that symbolizes someone that takes you on a path to learn new things. So we kind of
Yeah.
put the rabbit in all of these. There's the semi-god realm, which is people who understand, who know about Bitcoin, but are more like crypto traders. So they get it, but maybe don't get the whole idea behind it.
Uh-huh.
There's the God realm, that are people that understand Bitcoin as freedom money, but from a place of, but they understand it because they really do use it as a necessity. So if it's political, well, I forgot the word, the political activists that that don't have access to banks because of their situation, or people in countries that have huge inflation, and this it's the one on the upper left, this one, yeah. So we also have signs of Julian Assange
Oh.
and Martin Luther King and all these like freedom fighters in that one.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the cuckoo bird. If you see on one of the signs, there's the cuckoo bird
On top right there.
on top. Yeah, and the cuckoo bird, it comes from this story of it's like a Greek play that was called The Birds. And in this play, it's like two Athenians are sick of the way Athens is run, and they're sick of the government and of taxes and all of that. And they go to the realm of the birds and they say, we want to create a world between this human world and the bird world. So we want to create like this freedom world. And the leader of the birds like asks his helper, like, what are these people okay, like are they normal? And they
Mm-hmm.
end up calling them cuckoo, which, that phrase, like, are you cuckoo, are you crazy?
Right.
It comes from that. It comes from that idea that if you have crazy ideas and you want to change the world, you're cuckoo. So it comes from that cuckoo bird. So that's kind of like the symbol of that bird. And is people who that don't want to accept the world as it is, and they
Uh-huh.
want to change it.
It's
Yeah,
a
I mean,
it's a common it's one of those human memes. And just looking it up real quick, it's known for its distinctive two-note call and a habit of laying eggs in other birds' nests, symbolizes the arrival of spring and renewal. Also has parasitic behavior, deceit, or unfaithfulness. Culturally, so like cuckoo in the nest, it can be like an intruder or slang for being crazy or foolish.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been used in even here when you see like the interpretation, it's been used as like a bad thing to say about people, but the
Uh-huh.
origin of it is actually that it's people that want to change the world, right? That don't want to accept things as they are, but it's been taken like as a like as a political reference to go against it, to say that it's something bad.
Gotcha. And I'm trying to bring to screen here a better version of this picture. If you bear with me, just real quick. Here we go. Um, da, 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 da. There we go. Okay. Okay, better view of it. So yeah, the cuckoo bird. It makes me think of when I think of like Buddhism and the wheel of time, the wheel of the turning, the Four Noble Truths, and sort of the Eightfold Path, and some of those ideas. This connects with ideas of seasons and energies and flows, and kind of the turning of our lives and our life progress, and as well as just human progress and spiritual growth. We all start somewhere, and we all follow our own rabbits through adventures and tribulations. And
Yes, exactly.
we all have a path to take, and it's not perfect. It involves many energies. So this kind of it brings to mind, like it encapsulates a lot of those ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of all of those ideas of Buddhism. Yeah, that's what I was talking about before, of taking, the ideas of Buddhism that we have, or we have like even if we don't know them completely, we have an idea of what it means. And then when we look at this, we already have those ideas in the back of our mind when we're looking at this. So even if even if the interpretation is different and it's like a Bitcoin interpretation, you still have these ideas that you just talked about that are the paths we go through, the things that happen to us in life. And so it's part of this story, right? And this is that story of what happens to us when we discover Bitcoin. We start realizing how the world works, like how the monetary system
Uh-huh.
works.
Well, and we face such pressures in our lives and in the world today with all that. I mean, this is the world we live in now, is where we're faced with a whole lot, and we are parsing out the meaning in it and trying to retain on to what is still human. and how we navigate that. I mean, and you could look at it two ways. You could see it as like so much is happening that's good, and I mean, we can't get better except through sometimes challenge or hardship, or like these hard times that we need to have to learn from and grow out of, and then reflect upon and say, oh, like we're growing, and that's not all just easy. It's like it takes that hard stuff to 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 help us get stronger, I suppose. And um, I it brings me to some bigger picture ideas. If you have time for it, how's the kids and time feeling right now?
Well, right now they're quiet.
Okay,
So.
I know. Right now it's fine.
Right now there's quiet. I don't know about the next 5 minutes, but right
Okay,
now.
so just if things come up, we can make what works work. So
Okay.
when I think through your background, you have quite a story. Your upbringing, your travels, your adventures, your initial studies, and then deciding when it clicked for you to be, to go in on being professional artist, and having a good school that really uh, uh, inspired you as well. Having a good school in Spain, an art school, and then finding yourself that way. You've been on your own journey. Now, when you get to the work you're working on now with INANA and your current work, how can you describe, or how might you put a picture on it when we look at things like this? And where would you say you are now in terms of, if you look at the big picture kind of spirituality of it, to the extent you feel like sharing, where do you feel like you identify with all that right now? When you're a parent, you connect with your own little humans, and like my heart opened up when I had my kids for the first time, and what I thought was like kind of I got things dialed in. Suddenly that disrupted and changed, but I grew into that, and my heart opened up even more. Or what I thought love was has changed over the years with relationships, whether that's um, a significant other, a spouse, and then your kids, and then your aging parents, and it all, as you grow as a person, how might you describe where you're at now at maybe a spiritual level? Kind of a big, hard question, but
Yeah. Um, I think I went through a lot of changes. I think today I would say, if I start with today and look back, and again, this is, you asked how it's connected to INANA. I think there's something about like bringing everything together. So I think part of this like spiritual journey, at least mine, was, I was breaking everything in in a very difficult way, but I think it was necessary for me. I think I grew up very, 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 very confident, very knowing what I want and where I want to go, and I always had, I always had confidence, kind of growing up, and if things happened, they didn't affect me, right? Like I had a lot of things happen, in my family and everything, but I was fine. Everything was okay. I can handle everything, kind of. And I think with the breath, in those altered states of consciousness, you kind of start opening up and realizing that's a mask. At least, for me, that was a mask, that everything's fine and I'm strong and da da da. And to break that mask, you have to break it. You have to break, in a way. And
face your
and it was
demons sometimes.
face your demons. And I think my demons were feeling that we can be weak inside as well, and sad, and all of these emotions I didn't want to touch, right? So it was hard to shatter that, but on the other side, I felt like I needed to, like because in a way we can feel really strong, and get we don't get shaken by things. But on the other side of that is like you said, you also don't experience love to its full extent, right? If you don't experience anger and sadness to their full extent, you won't experience joy and happiness and love to their full extent either.
Mm.
You have to, they're all human emotions, and we have to experience all of them. And
Uh-huh.
that's I think that's a big part of my journey, to experience all of it.
Uh-huh.
I think that's where I am now. I think I've always been very spiritual, but sometimes spirituality is a way to bypass the human experience, right? You can be
Right.
spiritual, or you can feel spiritual, like I believe in things, and maybe you believe in energies and consciousness, and you can be very, very philosophical about the world and about art and about how the world should be in relationships and all of that, and feel very, very complete, and but in the end, I like this saying that we're spiritual beings having a human experience,
Right.
right? That you need, the human experience is the feelings, is um is feeling it all. And I think for me, that's where I am right now in my journey,
Uh-huh.
to feel that that and again, and you can look at back in my art, it kind of started. So when I started making art, I painted my great grandmothers, and I didn't know to say then why, but I just I found like photos of them in my grandmother's house, old photos, and I painted them. And for me it was just like, I don't know, just what I felt like doing, right? And today I look back and I said that was the beginning of my journey, to connect to my ancestors, to my story, to where I came from, and everything that means. um my ancestors were all, yeah, these are all photos, these are all women. I painted women in my family. They were all murdered in the Holocaust.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so it was kind of like the beginning of my artistic journey, and then I didn't know why I painted them. And I think today it's kind of like closing that circle, that it was the connection to my um, human experience, I guess. And INANA is part of that. It's like it's a work that is about um, it's about consciousness, and it's about the systems, and it's about a better world, but it's also about like an inner search.
That's awesome. Your grandmother's sister and her daughter escaping from Russia and coming to Israel. Each of these has a story, and
Yeah.
the Holocaust being one large footnote in our, not a footnote, a chapter in our history. That when I think about as we evolve, and we all have our stories, like my family, on my mom's side of the family, they few generations ago fled Germany and then kind of southern Russia, Ukraine to get to the United States. And then they just wouldn't talk about it. They were Americans. They considered themselves Americans. They were cowboys. They raised cows and had ranches. They would not talk about the past. It was like forbidden, or just was, I don't know, not our news story. And I think sometimes when we look back at past events in history, with every generation, as I raise kids, I reflect upon the idea that I'm trying to make a better world for them and their experience, and protect them from things from the past. And then I'll reconcile in myself habits that I have, things I grew up just kind of knowing or thinking I knew, believing that were like frameworks. There's like, oh, I know how things are. And then I'd have these weird sort of idiosyncrasies or things unreconciled. And it can come from like generational trauma. There's old trauma, and you'd think maybe it could end in one generation. I think sometimes it takes generation after generation to slowly heal and come out of that. And it wasn't until I was in my 30s or even 40s before I started to become aware of some of that and questioning my assumptions.
Right.
And that is hard to balance. Initially, my reaction to waking up to that was to get a little angry or feel like a victim, and then just break free and go like, well, I'm going completely elsewhere. And then as I've gotten older as well, kind of coming back and reconciling it and facing that and forgiving things and sort of coming to some acceptance, not to ignore it or be like, well, whatever, but to not be stuck either. And so kind of balancing acknowledgement and awareness with pushing forward and growing, and then making a better world for my kids. And so you've got quite the story there. You grow up with certain frameworks and knowing things, and then through challenge or change, you pierce through that. And like you said, kind of like take down the veil and see again clearly. That's not easy to do. That can feel very hard. And then finding yourself again. And then I presume for you, art can be that outlet of processing it, sharing it, and then even after it's done, looking at it and seeing new meaning again, perhaps. So it's quite a journey you're on.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes, you know, I choose the things that I make, um, and they come from a certain place. And sometimes, and again, it's like now looking back at what I made 15 years ago and going, oh, it's the things that I didn't even think about. You kind of like see your process through your art as well, right? See
Uh-huh.
the things, and see that it wasn't just an idea process; it was also an emotional process. And um, and yeah, I think what you said, what you did with your family, it is a hard process to do, and I think it's important to do that. And I think especially when you have children, you also realize that um that your parents were human. They came from
Yep.
a certain and we're affected by the way we grew up, by there's definitely generational things.
Yeah.
And because they say even physically, like, we, so a female embryo already has all of her eggs. So
Right.
when you were an embryo in your mother, she was inside your grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
so even, we were somehow in some form inside our grandmother's body, and whatever she went through in that time. And and I believe those things pass on. What she felt, what she was going through, in some way it came to us, even apart from growing up, physically as children in our families, and what we learned from that. um,
I've heard of research where they've found that I think it's been measured in trauma. I bet it pervades a lot of life experience, but that can get encoded in DNA and passed down. So generationally, there might be things like encoded in you as a child, nature versus nurture, of course, but that there are things encoded in us that we sort of inherit from things from the past, that we're not like just your egg, your embryo being born, and then it's nurture after that. There's things that
yeah.
we inherit at a deep level, and that we face, and then we hone ourselves through our life experience. And parenting is hard. And I will catch myself when I was a new younger parent, I would catch myself doing certain things or having certain habits. And I would find oftentimes it was about having a need for control. It oftentimes was sort of like an amount of control that I felt I needed to have in the world. And then I would catch myself going, wait, I'm acting just like my dad. And then I started thinking about my dad compared to my grandpa. And you get into the turnings, the turnings where the four turnings is often very much about the amount of control in the world with the amount of generational demand or need for control. And they do these cycles. And so we have the four turnings where there's like amounts of control that we experience in the world that go up and down at one cycle, and at another cycle sort of the experience that generations have from the hierarchy about that and their reaction to needing or shunning control. And I started looking at a lot of things about sort of like control in the world, how the world mechanism works, and it reflected on the amount of control or power I was experiencing in my world or for my kids, and what my parents experienced and what their parents experienced. And I started to reflect on sort of this turning between World War II, silent greatest generation, to the boomers, to me as a Gen X, and now my kids, millennials and Z and all that. We're having these different experiences, and I've had to like step back and go, okay, I just need to zoom out and appreciate being here now and making that good. So, and not
Yeah.
just subconsciously, unconsciously passing on things that are not as conducive to goodness, and then forgiving myself sometimes that we're not perfect. We do our best. My parents did their best. And I went through my angst and hate about that. Like, God, damn it. Why did they have to be that way? And then I'd be like, well, they did their best with what they knew from their parents and their parents and their parents. And here I am now, at least being aware of that. I'm just taking that next step for my kids. So quite a journey.
Yeah, and it's to also, you know, it's become this thing of like looking back at how your parents did and they did this good or this bad, and in the end I think for the majority of us, our parents did the best they can and we're doing the best we can. I mean, I catch myself sometimes, you know losing my temper or whatever and saying, oh well, there's something my kids can talk about, in therapy one day. we
Oh, they're
and
going to remember
and
that.
yeah, they're going to remember that. We're all human beings in the end, and it humbles you when you realize that, you know, in yeah, we're all human,
Uh-huh.
and even the people that are quote unquote trying to be perfect, I mean, I'm sure that's fucks their kids up in other ways as well. You can't, having the perfect, you can't always say the perfect things or do, so
Sure.
um
Sometimes
yeah, I
you
think.
gotta just do stuff to survive. And when survival's closer at hand, older generations simply, they were gonna survive. They were in the throes of things, and so had to do what they had to do. And so then where do kids fit into all that? However they can. So
Yeah, yeah, but every generation and every form of raising has its good things and its bad things. Like, I know, if you look at the generation of my grandmother, I think it's a generation that if you ask them, like the question we ask a lot today, are you happy? And I've heard someone, like a friend of mine asked her grandmother, are you happy? She looked at her and was like, what? I don't understand the
what do you mean
question.
happy?
Like, what do you mean? But on the other hand, she could watch, this funny video, or funny cartoon, and crack up and just laugh with all of her heart, right? So it's like there's something in that generation that was very, maybe held back or strong, but they also lived life fully,
Uh-huh.
and each generation has that. If we look at the fourth turning, you have the good things and you have the bad things. And I think it's like what you said, each generation tries to correct the past, but then when you correct something, you probably fuck something else up on the way. So it's
we're just doing our best here, folks.
yeah.
We're just but at least you at least make the effort. We're only human,
Yeah.
but you keep working at it. And I and that's where I have hope for people. I think it's like, as we open our eyes, it's easier to see the bad in the world. And I think before, people's worlds were smaller, or you had certain blinders on, and so the world could make sense. And then maybe as we're awakening and paying attention to more things, or we have access in an information age to stuff, it's easy to say, oh, things are so much worse. And at another level, it's like, well, there's some of more of the same, and also other things are actually getting better.
Yeah.
And bringing it back to Bitcoin, Bitcoin does sort of plant that seed of sprouting a fix to a lot of things for people. So there is hope, and I think we're making good progress. One last bigger picture kind of question is, where in your heart in your journey of life and all the places you've been, where in your heart do you feel, how do you reflect upon currently Spain, previously, say, Israel round 2, Florida, Israel round 1, born and up until you're like about 5 years old in Israel. So there's these chapters in your life, and they've grown you and changed you and affected how you got to where you are today. It's like that sliding doors thing where it's like, wow, my life has gone this whole direction, and it wasn't by my own choice. Sometimes it was circumstances and random things. How do you see those chapters? Like, how do they affect you today in your heart? What do you think about those places?
I think the big thing about moving a lot, and not just moving, across the street, moving to completely different, moving to different cultures. I think it affected me a lot. First of all, the concept of change for me is like a nature. It's like a familiar thing. I'm not afraid of change. I like change. For me, it's the opposite. If something stays the same, like, I used to need to move to a different house every 3 years, because after 3 years, be like, okay, next, like, we need to move. So that's also been a process, but like, change is something that I like, that that's just part of my life. So that's one thing that it's one of the big effects of that. And the other big effect is I think when you live in different cultures that aren't completely different than yours. So, I grew up in America in primary school from when I was 5 to 11. I live in Spain now. I'm originally from Israel. So these are cultures that have things that are similar and things that are different. And when you grow up in a certain place, it's like we have those truths about the world. This is how things are, right? It's things we don't even think about. Mm-hmm. For example, I have like a funny story that happened to me in Italy, that I was taking a train, and I didn't have a lot of time till the next train, and I wanted to get a coffee, and I went to just like a coffee shop in the train station, and I asked for a coffee to go, and the guy at the bar looked at me like, what do you mean coffee to go? Like that was like an offensive thing to ask for in Italy, right? A coffee is something
it's an experience.
It's an experience, but also if you need a quick coffee, you stand at the bar, you take your shot of coffee, and you leave. Like, a lot of people do that as well. There's no, like, coffee to go is like offensive, right? That's not something you do. Which is like a really small thing, right? But it's like those small things that sometimes make you look at those truths. I don't know if that's a good example for that, because it's a very small detail, but there's truths we grow up in, and how we learned how things should be and how things should be done. And then we go to a different culture and things are done completely different.
Uh-huh.
And it makes you think of all of the truths that you believe in, and and say, wait a minute, maybe nothing is, what is truth even? Maybe all of these things I know about the world are just the way I learned about them in the
Uh-huh.
world, but maybe someone else looks at them completely different. So it kind of, to me, those changes made me question all the time, um, just everything, basically
Uh-huh.
everything about the world, everything. I don't, um, I don't believe in anything with all of my heart completely. There's always a little bit of um, I don't
Like
have the word for it, but
open-mindedness,
like a
maybe, or
little. Yes, but it's to the point where I where it's in everything, like everything, even sometimes I even, it's like to have that question all the time, that maybe that always question everything, you know
Mhm.
like even right now, this conversation, just to give it like an example, maybe we're in a, maybe we're in a video game played by aliens right now, like everything is
The
possible,
simulation,
kind of
sure.
the simulation thing,
Yeah.
right? Although I think the simulation theory is just a different, it's just like a god, it's just a new religion kind of that works
It
for
can
today.
be. Yeah.
But but it but it's just that thing, that a lot of things we believe are how life should be, how the world is, are things we were taught because of the culture or the place or the family or whatever that we grew up in. But if we talk to people that come from a different background or from a different place, we realize that they have a different view on that.
Yeah.
So to always kind of question your views,
Uh-huh.
that's I think that's the biggest thing that I learned from living in different places.
Yeah. And maybe a lot of kids, or we all grow up with this to different levels, but in some cultures you grew up with a very strong and strict framework. And then in my life I thought, oh, no, 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 we were really pretty relaxed and open and progressive and liberal or whatever it was. And I realized in hindsight, my parents, um, open minded as they were, there were still some very strong like frameworks that I grew up with that were just sort of like the air we breathe. It was just like, nope, this is just the way things are, and we took it for granted. Human nature being what it is. I mean, of course, we just you go through life just sort of knowing how to operate without thinking too hard about everything. But I realized, no, my own life had its own frameworks from an early age that I just accepted completely or didn't even think about. My parents would often be kind of like mission driven, task oriented, busy. It felt like we were like late to things, and it turned into a time preference thing where maybe um, aspects of like Israeli culture or Western culture in America, we will have like a certain pace or a time preference about expectations. It's like having that control and pace over time. And then you go to other cultures, or like in Spain or the Italy experience and other parts of Europe, or a lot of the world, probably the people are on a different wavelength, whether it's time preference or expectations or a need for control. It's different. And so by traveling,
Absolutely.
yeah, living different places, as an American, you can be like, yeah, I need this like tomorrow, or like you had your experience with getting a piece of art framed,
Yeah.
and your reaction to like, hey, I need this next week. Okay, no problem. And then, yeah, just sort of like managing other cultures' sort of approach and pace to outcomes or timelines, deadlines. When they're
Yeah,
different,
for
it's like,
sure. And living here, I've been living here for 15 years, and you in the beginning, coming from this culture of urgency, of everything needs to be now and done, and like, let's go, and to come into a culture where that's not important, like life is important, like
right.
finishing your day with a beer, that's life, right?
Mhm.
That's the importance in life. And it takes a while to get into that, I mean, because it's different to come for a visit, right? When you come for a holiday, then you're like, oh, this is cool, like I can, but you're in a holiday mode. But when this is your life mode, it takes a while to learn that and to get to that. And today when I go back, to visit my family, it like all of a sudden the like
Culture
Israeli
shock.
culture like struck. Yeah, I get a culture shock. I'm like, whoa, calm down, like slow down. So and so it's fun, and it's also so interesting to see that, because this is who I was. This is where I came from. Was like the truth I grew up in. And all of a sudden
Right.
you see how you change, and all of a sudden how that looks different from the outside, from this perspective, right?
But you're happier, and you found yourself more authentically who you are, what you need, what's healthy. And yeah, you imagine like the path that could have been if you'd have just stayed in the on the path, a certain paved
Yeah.
path, versus breaking away and exploring. um, I can juxtapose, like, yeah, I'll go to visit family or see my parents after a while, and I'll see little trappings that they'll have, and I could judge it, and I can also just recognize it and be like, okay, it is what it is, and yeah, I've learned from that, and yeah, I'm seeking authenticity and happiness. I suppose we all do. I hope so. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Um, is there? You have a wide variety of artwork, and I want to make sure if there's any aspects of your art that I haven't touched upon that we want to make sure we show, that you, or that you would like to talk about, that you're thinking about lately. You've done embroidery work.
Yeah, that's an embroidery of my grandmother.
Wow.
It's done. Yeah, it's just threads with different colors. I did it on a tablecloth. Yeah, it's about this big, like I think it's 25 centimeters
Okay.
diameter, something like that. Yeah, it says there 25
That
centimeters.
is quite detailed and intricate. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that
Um,
took a very long time to make, and yeah, I love textile work. Yeah, this
and I
is
see a lot of different styles. I mean, these are all your creations,
yes,
and I
these
see
are
things from like photorealism to a little more abstract, and I mean, wow, it's quite a range of style. Very interesting. How has your style evolved over the years as you've become an artist? What would you say has changed in your either your skill or your craft or your interests here?
I think I think it's evolved more conceptually, I would say. I mean, this series, this is also like one of the first series I've made. This is So I started with the paintings of my great grandmothers, and
Mm-hmm.
this, like, following that same thing, I would go to like flea markets and find old photographs that kind of caught my attention and caught my eye, and and kind of brought them to my studio and painted my version of them. So kind of like it was still part of that, what is the thing that connects us, what's the essence in human beings. So I would just kind of paint it. Some are with pencil, some are with color, some just have two colors, just kind of like what I felt from that photo.
I like that
And
little face right there.
yeah,
um,
and and yeah, and then it went to the Bitcoin art.
some
These
NFT stuff.
are, yep, yeah, that
You
was
you have a YouTube
2020.
channel. Just seeing
In
the video
YouTube,
there.
it's it's some work in progress photos, and some so there was a part where I used to do like oil paintings and then animate them.
Uh-huh.
So there's some of that as well. But yeah, YouTube is kind of like you can see videos of the work
Yeah.
and works in progress.
Yo
Um,
Mama Sophia.
yeah,
You can
that
go
I have to
to,
give credit. Yeah,
you have
it's
to give
Yonat
credit.
Vaks on YouTube. No, the Yo Mama Sophia is so it's part of the Bitcoin is a joke series. So
Uh,
that the painting, the honey badger as well, it's kind of like a series that talks about the FUD, like, oh, Bitcoin is a joke. It's not, it's not something that will last and all that. So I kind of took joke lines, like known joke lines, and
uh-huh.
made paintings of it. So the honey badger photo or the honey badger painting that we looked that's also on one of the trading cards is why did the honey badger cross the road?
Uh-huh.
And then there's the if you look in the on my site in the Bitcoin artwork, yeah, the
Bitcoin artifacts.
yeah, in the honey bat the say Bitcoin is a joke, where the honey up the first one on the left, yeah. Um, so yeah, so Your Mama Sophia is yeah. So I was talking to Chief Monkey actually, and I said I need a title for this. I have Your Mama Sophia. No, it was sorry. I had the idea of your mama's so fat. She like I don't know. I was thinking of like inflation and da da da. And Chief Monkey goes, Your mama's so fiat. And I was like, that's
Your Mama Sophia,
perfect.
her inflation rate's in the double
Yeah.
digits. And
So
this picture here is also in the Bitcoin Art magazine, correct?
yes, the boat they that one is too. Yeah, this one is why is Bitcoin difficulty so high? And
Cool. There's the honey badger.
why the honey badger cross the road, a willow whale and a honey badger walk into a bar.
These are just fun to look at, stimulating and creative and fun and funny. I like
Yeah.
them.
So these are the oil paintings are all sold, but they're still limited edition prints. So I do a limited edition of 21 of each of them, and they're prints that are enhanced with acrylic paint. So I paint on the
Ah,
print. So each one is kind of unique in that way.
oh, nice.
Um, yeah.
Awesome. And now most recently INANA. And
Yeah.
so you've worked like at school, you would work with pottery and different media. But you're going back to more of the sculpture type of work. Has that been your focus then lately?
Yeah, in the past year, it's been sculpture. So I'm doing these INANA sculptures, and I'm also now making a replica. So the first, it's kind of like it speaks back to the invention of money. So the first transactions, so people, when people started living in more agricultural societies, they needed to find a way um, to keep
Keep track of
record
stuff.
of to keep track of stuff exactly.
I'm glad you brought this
um,
up because we talked about this backstage before we started, and it got me thinking about interesting things. And so I didn't want to forget this. Go ahead.
yeah, so yeah, it's just because I love the clay so much, and I love doing the Inanna sculptures, and but I still had this thing in mind to do this idea about Bitcoin, and I was like, this is perfect to do in ceramics. So the first transactions, this is in Mesopotamia, they would have tokens that, so if you and I traded something, we could have a token that represented that. But the
Uh-huh.
problem with the token is that, you could replicate the token. It was hard to keep track. So what they did is they would make clay envelopes that the tokens of the transactions were put inside, and then the clay envelope was sealed.
Mhm.
And then if we had, so our transaction would be there. And if we had some kind of dispute along the line, and I said, I gave you, no, but I gave you 2 heads of cattle, and you said I gave you 3, or I don't know, the other way around,
Sure.
we would have to break that clay envelope, right? So it was tamper proof in the way that you couldn't see, you couldn't manipulate what was inside unless you broke it.
Uh-huh.
And then it evolved to have the seals on the outside. So it became too much work to break it every time and then put it back together. So they would, before it was fired, there would be a seal on the envelope saying like what the transaction actually is. But it was, the tokens were inside as well, just in case. So, and from that came the invention of writing, actually. Because from that, they invented cuneiform, which was the first form of writing. And so the invention of the written language actually came from the same source
Ledgers.
of the invention, from ledgers, exactly. From the
Yeah.
first, from the and money came from ledgers. So ledgers were the
Right.
first form of keeping track of transactions. So this piece, it's like I'm doing eight ceramic. They were called bulle, I think, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So I'm doing like a modern Bitcoin interpretation of these. So I'm making ceramic balls that have orange pills inside. So the tokens are like these ceramic orange tokens that have like a Bitcoin B in them, and they're inside. And I did like holes in the clay envelope, in the clay ball, in the form of Merkle trees, so you can look inside. Since Bitcoin is a transparent ledger, so you can't take the tokens out, you can't touch them, but you can look inside through holes that are in the form of Merkle trees. And then on the outside, I'm like minting in the clay the algorithm, the Genesis block. And then each ball has talks about a different way Bitcoin fixes the fiat system. So one is like there's rules, no rulers. One talks about inflation. Like each one will talk about a different problem in the fiat system that Bitcoin fixes. And so the seal is kind of like a funny honey badger meme. It's like it's not let's call it an engraving that I'm making with clay on the ball itself, of a honey badger meme that talks about how Bitcoin fixes the fiat system.
Awesome.
You have to see it. It's hard to explain.
Well, and now this is an ancient representation of a bulle. I had to look it up, but like it could be a ball, exactly, or like a vase, or a cylinder, but you'd have this ball seal container, and inside of which were the little token, like, these might have their own representations of things on it, but like sort of like cracking through the cryptography, the seal of the key, and inside was the proof of the proof of what the agreement was, say, or the ledger. So there's a lot of different versions of that. Do you have any representations to show that I could look at, or you're still a work in progress?
I do, but I don't know if I have them on my computer.
Oh, here's another interesting example of it. Yeah. So they could be in like these cylindrical containers, and they had writing and markings to like describe things on the outside, but then you could break it open and have the message inside, so yeah. Oh, cool. Now that brings me to, the common question. People say, what is money? And if you find a representation of it, I'd love to bring it up, but I understand if you can't find it. But my little story on my connection here with what is money, and there's a lot of presumptions and stories about what is money. And there are different theories on that, whether it was, as a more liquid medium of exchange, because people were bartering and there was coincidences of wants and people needing to have some sort of intermediary way to do that, whether it was shells or beads or all the things. And then there's other theories about that, where later, kind of state extractive taxation incentives to have a state money and to have a means for people to pay taxes in a common medium and all that. But going back much deeper, money kind of evolved from things like what you described, from like the earliest writing and the earliest ledgers, where people were keeping track of things, agreements or contracts or things, and they would have them in like these bulle, and in, even before writing, it was symbology in clay that meant things that could be like, obvious when it was tampered with, and help upheld contracts. And then later with cuneiform, a lot of that cuneiform was like early records of tracking who owed what, or who had what, or what property was where, and land use and sharing, and or labor done, and all these things. So it was like a ledger to keep track of human events and activity and property. And then
Yeah.
from that came things like, okay, yeah, mediums of exchange that were traded more like a coin or a bead or a shell and all that. But the roots, the earliest roots of money are even pre-writing and early math, if you call it that. But it was ledgers, early ledgers.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
So it's like this connection to, I think I sent it to you. I don't know
Let
if
me
you
look.
see what I um
Where did you send it? Oh, on X?
on X, but also on this uh, on StreamYard, I think. It said I can in the studio like send an
I
image
see
file. I
it.
don't
I
know if
see
you
it.
see that.
Okay. Okay, real quick. Bear with me. I'm going to bring this up. I've got to put it up on the right tab here. Okay. One moment.
Sorry.
Bear with me. I'll get there. Okay, here we go.
These are works in progress. So this
Okay.
is still it's still not fired. It's still not finished.
Oh, another one.
So yeah. So
Okay, I got the other one here now. Okay, here we go. I'll bring it to the screen. Okay, so looks like
yeah. So that's I try, like, the idea with this is I don't want to glaze it. I don't want to put like modern paint on it. So I want to leave it bare like it was. So this is kind of like a relief of a honey badger holding an orange pill. And the black part is from black clay. It's hard to see right now because first of all the photo is really bad, but
I can zoom in a little bit.
yeah, but also it still needs to be fired. It looks different when it's still clay. But this is like a honey badger handing the an orange pill. This is like the first one I'm making. It's the artist proof, so it's still not part of the series. It's like yeah, it's like I'm testing how it looks.
Yeah, you're learning the craft here.
Yeah, and then on the other side it's the snake with an orange pill, because it's like the Genesis block, and on each side is I minted like like the algorithm of the Genesis block, and then around the snake it says history started with an act of disobedience. So if we look at the story of the Genesis story, in the end, the snake gave Adam and Eve the apple to know between, to have the knowledge to know between evil and good. So this is the same thing. It's kind of like take the orange pill to know the difference.
Escape from the Garden of Fiat.
Yes. And then, yeah, so there's the Genesis book around that. And then each one is going to have a different honey badger seal that kind of explains the part of the fiat system that Bitcoin is fixing. It's the whole series. I'm calling it Bitcoin Fixes This.
Awesome. I'm so glad you found these and shared these. I was very curious when you mentioned it. You first described the cuneiform, not even cuneiform, but pre-cuneiform ledger type bulle stuff, and I was like, oh, I like that history because it's the earliest ledgers.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and it's like the Bitcoin is like an invention of new money, like a new, completely new form of money. So it's
uh-huh.
also starting with a ledger, right? Just like the money we know today started with a ledger. So
Bitcoin fixes this. I see. Yep.
yeah, it says Bitcoin fixes this, and this one on the other side says stack sats. But each one is going to have kind of like the phrases, known Bitcoin phrases. So
Uh-huh.
like, yeah, like rules, not rulers, and not your keys, not your coins, depending on the thing I'm talking about. So if we're talking about like government control or bank control, so it'll be not your keys, not your coins, and it'll have a honey badger. I don't know yet what the honey badger will do, but probably have keys in his hand. Um, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so many directions you can go with this and the styles and things. For people who have an interest in history, the history of money and where that came from, the ledgers and the clay work, and we're talking how many thousands of years ago, pre-recorded history, but we have archaeological history of there's a lot of this clay type work that when humans were navigating how to manage these social contracts and property and work and things, this is what they did. And I love how you tap into that. It goes deep. So that's awesome.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much. This has been great. It's been wow. It's been 2 hours, and you've got family, and you've got good kids taking care of little ones. So
Yes. Yeah.
I really appreciate the time you've lent me today. I want to help. I want to make sure people know where to find you. I'm going to direct people to on X. You can be found here at Yonat Vaks. You can search for her, find her there. Her art and her feeds and her website and her work is there. Her art gallery website, you can go to yonatvaks.com. Her current work, the INANA, you have a Substack, if I can find it here. Oh, on Scarce City, you can also find and buy artwork of yours. Scarce City is a site where you can go and see your artwork.
Yeah. Yeah, you can buy on Scarcity. You can also buy on my site. And on my site, if you if you go to join, you see that there's a join collectors circle. So it brings you down to the bottom where you just add your email and join, and then you're on the Substack. So
Okay. So you can sign in there about
yeah,
monthly. You provide updates and
yeah,
writings you do.
yeah, it's a monthly newsletter where I talk about just thoughts I'm having behind the scenes, and anytime I have new work, it's I put it there first, and yeah, sometimes I have like subscriber perks kind of.
So on
So like
Substack, you can also find Inanna and find Yonat there.
yeah,
Subscribe. But anyway, so newsletter work. There is an Instagram site. I'm not on Instagram, but you got Instagram here. Did you give a TED talk?
I did.
I saw that. It was not in a language I knew to understand,
Yeah,
but I was like,
it was in
wow.
Spanish. Yeah, I gave a TED talk in Spanish about the future of art in and technology.
Yeah, it
Um,
was there was something about like
yeah, it's
is
about
art
AI and
dead?
is art dead? Yeah, it's kind of like the same thing we talked about. What happens to art with technology? What happens, like what happened with the invention of the camera? So it was kind of like a TED talk about everyone says that with AI, art is dead. So it's
Uh-huh.
kind of a talk about is art dead with
Cool.
technology? But
It's in
yeah.
Spanish.
It's in Spanish, but you probably get subtitles on YouTube. I don't know.
Um, okay, and then of course there's Bitcoin Art Magazine. If you haven't gotten your Genesis edition, it's a quarterly, but the Genesis is the Immaculate Conception. Asanoa and Kisa and others have put together here. You are featured in here. Get yourself one, featuring Yonat's work and many other great artists. So many good artists are in here.
Yeah, and it's super high quality magazine, and
Yes, it's an
and
art
definitely,
gallery in your hands.
yeah.
Even just the basic printed one, if we can get there. Um, Glossy, nicely high quality production. You can get yourself a hardcover and a gold foil version as well. But just, I mean, just the basic Genesis issue. It's an Asanoa says it's an art gallery in your hands, and
And it is.
it's nice to have it tangible. You can smell it, you can see it, you can turn the pages. You're having an experience with this. People have said, "Oh, could you put it online and digital and people could peruse it there?" And it's like, yeah, you could, but
It's not
I
the
mean,
same.
it's not the same. You gotta. I mean, don't we get enough screen time? So
Yeah, exactly. It's not the same as sitting on your couch and looking through Bitcoin art. And it's really beautifully done and beautifully edited and super high quality. And I'm sure it'll be a collectible.
I don't read the same. Okay, sure, I can read a book on a tablet, but I love holding a physical book and turning physical pages and having that experience. I learn better. I think better. It's like if you're in class and you're studying, yeah, you could just sit there and remember stuff. But if you just write stuff as you're thinking, and the process of writing itself engages your brain, that even if you'd never look at those notes again, your engagement with the process helps the stuff stick. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's a
it's a
completely
human
different
experience.
feeling.
Um, yeah, we're not humans having spiritual experiences. We are spirits having a human
Human
experience. So make that
experience.
good. Now your
Exactly.
YouTube site, you can go to YouTube and find the artwork here. You go right here, youtube.com/at Yonat Vaks.
Yeah.
There's a button right here. You click subscribe. It's that easy. And you got lots of little shorts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then, of
it's
course,
it's short videos, short process videos, or just explanation videos of the work, but yeah, all
yeah,
short.
like a lot of these, you've made the art, and then you make short little 30-second, 20-second, minute long, um, yeah, shorts of it that are just fun to watch, and all the different stuff you've been making. These are fun to watch as well.
Yeah.
And let's see. I think that's it. Is there anywhere else people can find you, or where I should direct
Yeah,
people to
no,
go?
generally if you go on my site, there's links to everywhere. So you can sign up to the newsletter, you can yeah, there's links to YouTube, to X, and I need to put a link to Noster, although I'm not very active.
YonatVaks.com. You can find everything here, all
Yeah.
the different things, your collections, how to contact you, and what is this one here? Oh, you can
And
you
how to
can
buy
buy
art.
your art. You can commission stuff if they
Yeah.
contact you. You open up 5 commissioned pieces per year. You've had commission work done, and some of your earliest work, the chicken on the moon, was Charlie. What's his name?
Charlie Lee. It wasn't a commission, that one, but
Oh, he just reached out
yeah,
to you.
he just reached out. But yeah, like the harpoons, for example, are a series of 21, but they're commission based. So the paintings on the harpoons are like a painting of the collector's story. So all of the like details and all of the symbols and all of the story is the collector's story is painted on the harpoon. So that's a commission, for example, that can be done. And also the hodler cloak, which we didn't talk about, but it's another piece that is also a collection of 21 and a series of 21, and can also be commissioned. The Fellowship of the Hodler, up on the right corner.
Ah, a cloak. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a cloak that's from another part of Spain. It's like um, from the west part of Spain, from a place called Zamora, and it's a cloak that's used today in ceremonies. But it was brought to Spain with the Roman soldiers. It's like a cloak that's made from sheep wool, black sheep,
Ah,
and
you
yeah,
went and met the sheep.
yeah, I did. I went and met the sheep. Whenever I make a work like this, we actually go um, to see the places, to meet the people, the tradition, the story. So it all goes into the artwork. And so these cloaks are they have like designs on them, like embroidered designs on them, and they were worn by, so they came to Spain with Roman soldiers. They were worn by monks and by shepherds. So when I read about this, I was like, this is the cloak of the hodler, right?
Uh-huh.
It's like the defender of the citadel. That's what I call it. So
Artful and practical and cultural.
so I did my own design. There's a seamstress that's also, so with these works, I always work in collaboration with someone that's been making these in the traditional way and for many years. So there's a seamstress that makes them. I made the design. So there's a design that has like 21 and Merkle trees and the infinity sign. Yeah, you
Uh-huh.
can see it there. And I made like a little, and then I embroider on that with gold thread, with
Oh.
24 karat gold thread. And I make like above the hodler symbol, it's like a badge of the fellowship. Like I did kind of like the fellowship of the hodler. And on the other side, you can ask to embroider whatever you want. So I had someone, for example, embroider a Pepe on like the other side. So I did that. And yeah, so this number one is in the Bitcoin Art Museum in Nashville,
Oh, wow.
and others are yeah. So there's
So
still
the
some of the 21 that can be commissioned.
so there are some, yeah, particularly involved styles of art here that take some extra proof of work and time. And the harpoon and the cloaks you can commission and have made special. Book a call, talk about it. So that's awesome. See, there's whole realms of your artwork that I just,
That we
we can go
haven't
on and on and on about so many
yeah.
different styles. You've explored so many styles. So it's amazing.
Yeah, I like to try just new things and different styles and different things, because I think for me the material is just as important as the artwork itself. So the material itself is part of the story. So if this is the story, yeah, like a guitar. And so I don't know how to make guitars, so I'll find someone that makes guitars,
Awesome.
and usually someone that does it handmade and that it's like a generational thing, because I think for me the material is a very, very important part of the work.
Uh-huh.
So that's why I explore different materials and different things, and if it's not something I know how to make, I'll find someone that does and we'll do a collaboration. So
Yeah, immersing yourself in the the origins of the medium itself, like the craftsmen who make the canvas upon which you add.
yeah.
That's awesome. And when I think about the cloaks, I sort of imagine someday in the future on whenever that is, and we're on a Bitcoin standard, and life is just different, and we self-select and choose to live an authentic life closer to community and the earth and our physical experience, because we have that choice and we're not stuck in a fiat rut hustling. We can elect to live a life that is could be kind of like a medieval fantasy, but like not basically very authentic and, what do I say, grounded. Perhaps we
Yeah,
might
connected
elect
to the
to
ground.
choose this life, pure
Yeah,
time preference
completely.
someday. Okay, that is awesome. I appreciate the extra time you gave me going on these side channels, because there's just so many things you've created, so many
No,
awesome
thank you.
things, and I've really enjoyed it. Before we go, is there anything that I haven't touched upon that you want to make sure people hear about?
No, I think we've talked. No, we talked about the last things, and again, there's you can go down the rabbit hole of my site if you want, and I'm
Explore
always
your site.
happy to if you want to write me or you have questions or anything, I'm always happy to answer, to talk. Yeah, I have that book a call on my site, and you can just just feel like chatting as well. I'm happy
Awesome.
to. So
That's
yeah.
great.
Oh
And
yes, we
you can be
this.
heard a couple
Thank
of
you.
times a
That's
month.
exactly
The
what
movement of
I was.
art.
Yeah. So I've started a podcast. We had one episode for now, but it's going to be on every 8th and 21st of every month, and it's called The Movement of Art. And I'm going to talk each episode. I'm talking to 3 or 4 artists about different parts of Bitcoin and art and how they use their art to spread the message, and just kind of a chat between different artists. So you can subscribe also to the Bitcoin Art podcast, exactly what you see now.
Yeah, there's your latest right there. Well, this
Yeah.
was you being interviewed by
Yeah, this
Asanoa.
is Sanoa. So in the Bitcoin Art podcast site or on the YouTube channel, there's both of our podcasts. So there's Asanoa, where he sits down with different artists, and it's like a one-on-one conversation with artists, and the Movement of Art, which I host, which is more like a chat between 3 to 4 artists about different
Yeah.
aspects of art. So the next one is coming up on the 21st, so in a few days, and it's going to be about the use of myths and stories in Bitcoin art. So
Awesome. So you can tune in and catch you there regularly, as well as you collaborate and do roundtable with other artists. And I've appreciated tapping into the Bitcoin art. Like, there's a whole discussion around, is there a Bitcoin art community or a Bitcoin art culture? Because these things evolve, and artists often shun homogeneity, or what do I say, like a label being put in a box. It's like, you don't want to be lumped into just like, oh, we're part of this group. It's like each individual is doing their own thing independently, fiercely independently, and you don't want to get a label put on you. At the same time, I will just say the Bitcoin art movement is quite authentic and real and beautiful and growing. And so, however artists kind of dip into that and dip out, it's a community. And what, through the podcast, you are getting other artists connected, giving them some platform, sharing their creativity, and we get to hear from people we wouldn't have otherwise known about, perhaps, or wouldn't see in a gallery. But yeah, it's great. So
yeah, definitely.
All right, with that, we will say goodbye for now, and I look forward to the clay work you're doing between the grails and that sculpture. I keep wanting to say cuneiform, but it's the bole balls and the clay work. I'm
the
looking forward.
Cuneiform came from that.
Yeah, cuneiform. Before cuneiform was the bole and the inscriptions. So it's been great. So I really appreciate you joining me, and you can get back to family and the end of your day, and I will start mine.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
You're welcome. It's been fun. Bye. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining.